Hello everyone, this is Brad the Ripper here, and today I want to show you how to rewind your multi-rotor motors, your 2205 or your 2204 motors that everybody flies on their quadcopters. So say this happens to you. You don't really know what's going on until you land it, unless you've been in this hobby a while, and then you know what happens. What happened here was a blade had been broken off my propeller when I hit that limb, and I continued to fly trying to get it back to me, but because I really didn't know what was going on. But when I got up to the motor, I could smell it. The motor was smoked, and some of the leads had shorted out to each other, and the motor would still work, but it did not perform the way the other ones did, and it would just heat up extremely fast compared to the other ones. So today I'm going to show you how to fix this problem, how to take off those old nasty windings and replace them with good hand wound windings for your motors. Anyway, I hope this video is a help to you. Alright, so first things first, we are going to go over some things that we will need, and pretty much it's very simple. We're only going to need a few things. You're going to first need some copper magnet wire. I get this is Temco 25 gauge. I have green and red. We're going to be winding in red today. And of course you're going to need, you can buy this on eBay by the way, I'll put a link in the description. And you're going to need a motor that has had the stator removed. I've already removed that. And I'll also put a link to these motors too, by the way. These are $19 for all four motors. Not a piece, for all four combined. And pretty much this one has not been damaged. The windings on this stator are fine, but it's just a personal motor that I will be rewinding just because I like the results that I get from my hand wound motors. So anyway, first thing that we have to do is we need to remove these windings from the stator. It's very simple, and if you get these motors, it's very easy to remove those. So first things first, we're going to take and we're going to cut. I'm going to cut these leads off, these silicone leads. Keep the leads because you might want to use them whenever you go to rewind the motors, and we're gonna go over how to solder those back. So again, it's very simple. You just take, and if you want to mess around getting the shrink tubing off or the silicone coating, you can, but it is not necessary. Just simply start untwisting the leads together, and once you get one started, it tends to go pretty smooth after that. Okay, so here we go. And like I said, these windings are not epoxied together, or like they're not epoxied to the teeth, so it goes a whole lot faster that way. I have had some, I think Sunny Skies actually epoxy their windings, and they do that to protect them, but to me it is not necessary. And when you're doing this right here, or after you smoke a motor, it tends to become difficult. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and unwind this. I'm going to fast forward until I'm done. Alright, so coming down to the last tooth on this stator, you can see that we have this humongous nasty group of magnet wire. Pretty much just take it, ball it up, twist it together, and pretty much get rid of it. You'll never use that again. And now we have a nice bare stator that we are going to rewind now. Now this is, if I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but that was actually, it was actually two leads wound 11 times around each tooth. And I believe that's about a 28 gauge or close to a 30 gauge wire that comes on these stators. But since we're going to 25, we do not need multiple windings at the same time. All we need is one winding, and it just looks cleaner. I believe it's a whole lot more efficient. At least some of the things that I've looked up say it is. So anyway, the way we're going to start out is you're going to take a Sharpie, and the easiest way to do it is you're going to mark a 1 and a 12. And pretty much you want to make the one on the right hand side, at least this is what I do anyway. You can number all the teeth on this stator, but I usually just number the first and the last one. This has 12 teeth, and what it does is it goes number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, on and on and on, all the way around until we get 12. So pretty much this is nothing but a clock face. And so that's just the way I view it. It makes it easier to me. And I will be putting in a picture of the winding diagram that I used. It's not the exact thing, but it is the one that I used. And so anyway, as you can see here, I have a little tool. This one's made of metal, but I will be uploading a file or putting it in the description of a 3D model of the exact specifications to this. 3D printed should work, but like I said, this one's metal, and all this is I'm going to take the stator, I'm going to set it on the little step down here. We're going to put the screw with the cap right there. We're just going to finger tighten it, and actually I'm going to line up the first tooth with this bolt down here, this little hex key bolt right here. And what that is for, just really fast, I'm going to go over this once, because pretty much you wind every grouping of stator teeth, you wind them the same way. So and that's pretty much why I'm just going to wind this first grouping, and then we're going to move on, and I'm just going to kind of skip ahead to when I wind the entire thing, just to keep this video as short as possible. So first things that I do, this screw here is to hold your motor lead, and you don't need this tool, but it really does help. And if you have any access to a machine, or if you have an access to a 3D printer, I have not tried a 3D printed version of this, but it should work. But anyway, you take this, and you don't have to do it. You could take it around here and wrap the wire around the neck of this right here, and just twist it together. You'll lose a little bit more wire though, but that's no big deal. This stuff right here is about $10 for a 500-foot roll. But anyway, I tighten up this little screw right here, and what that does is it keeps it taut to this little fixture. Now I use a glove, not that it hurts your hands pulling it, because actually you'll break the stuff before it really hurts your hands. But as you can see, I've cut out the pointer and the thumb, and that is just so I can really feel when I wind it around the teeth. But pretty much the rubber grips this enameled wire very well. So first things first, on the stator tooth number 1, you're going to go in between 1 and 12, and you're going to wind it clockwise. So really fast, I'm going to just fast forward this, but pretty much, well, I'm going to go ahead and do a few windings, but pretty much pull it nice and tight, and then just take your thumb and then push it in between 1 and 2. And what you have right here is a complete wind, because as long as you have one strand on this side and one strand on the other side of each tooth, that equals one wind. So, and now we're going to do that 11 times. So now we're going to do 1.5, and I usually just take my fingernail and push that back, and you want to keep those pushed back nice and neat. So now we have 1.5 windings, 2 windings, push it back, 2.5, 3 windings, 4.5, 5 windings, and so on and so forth until you get all the way out to here. And I'm just going to wind this real fast while I talk. And pretty much you're going to be able to fit, at least on this one, the 2205 2300 kV motors, I can fit 8 windings on the bottom layer. I believe I'm at number 7. 6 or 7. Yes, I believe that's 7. So now pretty much I have 8 windings now, and I'm going to count that just to make sure. Yes, that is correct. So now that I'm underneath here, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to start to wind it back. And then when I come back down, that will be winding number 9. And just pop that to where it sits nice and tight right there. So see, I've started that winding on the way back. So now we're going to go number 10, pull it tight, and then one more for this tooth. and there is number 11. So that's the way it looks on mine with 25 gauge wire. You should have 3 windings on top of the 8 windings on the bottom. So now we're ready to make the transition to tooth number 2. Again, I just leave it marked 1 and 12. But this is tooth number 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So now we're going to take this winding. We are in between tooth 1 and 2, and we're just going to take it and we're going to wrap it underneath, just like this, underneath of number 2, and we're going to pull it up between number 2 and 3. And then hold that wire back with your fingernail and just pull that snug. Don't pull it too tight or else it will break and you'll have to start over. So now that is a half winding. The winding that comes in between combining the number 1 and number 2 tooth does not count as a half winding on this tooth. So now once we come back down, that is winding number 1. And we are going to wind this tooth counterclockwise. So clockwise is number 1, counterclockwise is number 2. So I'm going to wind this one real fast, and then I will be right back to tell you how we make the transition from 1 and 2 over here to, I believe it is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So real fast, I'm going to wind this tooth. Alright, and there you go. We have number 2 tooth wound. So now what we're going to do, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and number the rest of these just for this video purpose. Just because it'll be a little bit easier to show you. And it's a small little place right here to write on, but as long as you know roughly what it says, you'll be fine. So again, we're coming over to 7 and 8 here in a second. And we're going to wind those, and this will be one phase, I believe is what what I saw it referred to as. Okay, so now that we have all the teeth numbered, just for visual purposes, just to help you out, we're going to take the wire coming off of number 2, and the reason why this tool is so nice is because this tool is actually, the diameter of this larger part is a little bit wider than your stator body, so it will keep these wires nice and neat. But yeah, you can also pull tight on them. So now we're going over to tooth number 7. So just pull that tight right around the little fixture or around your finger or your nail. If you're doing this without a fixture, then all you just have to do is just make sure you leave enough slack in here to where when you go to put it onto your stator housing, when you go to put it on here, whenever you mash it down or when you press it down, it does not cut the wire and short out the wire to the stator housing. So come over to number 7, and we're going to go up between 7 and 8, and we're going to wind this one counterclockwise. And as you can see, if you look straight down on top of it, I believe that's about as close as I can get, number 7 is actually straight across from number 1, and number 2 is straight across from number 8. So since we wound number 1 clockwise, number 7 is going to be wound counterclockwise. And since number 2 is wound counterclockwise, number 8 will be wound clockwise. So here we go. We're just going to wind number 7. Okay, so now 7 is wound. And now when we come up in between 7 and 8 this time, this will count as a half turn towards number 8. So now that's half a turn, 1 whole turn. And then you wind 8 clockwise. Okay, and that is your first phase wound. Now, you must be careful whenever you get to that 7th and 8th winding, because if you're not careful, when you drag it across the points of these teeth, it it could possibly break through the enamel wire. In fact, it could easily break through the enamel wire, and if it happens to short out to the stator tooth, then the whole motor is going to be no good. It'll twitch, it won't work properly, it's shorted out. So just be careful whenever you wind. You want to keep everything nice and tight just to keep it nice and clean, but you just got to be careful with that. So now pretty much it's as simple as you're going to skip 3 and 4, and you're going to wind number 5 and 6 as if you did number 1 and 2. And after you do 5 and 6, you're going to jump over the exact same way to the opposite of each one, which happens to be 11 and 12. And so I'm going to go ahead and wind that phase now. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and wind I'm going to go ahead and wind just that phase, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so we are back. I now have the second phase wound. The phase consisting of 5, 6, 11, and 12. And as you can see, the leads coming from 12 and 11 crisscross, or they're actually right there in the same gap. So what we're going to do, we're going to crisscross them, and we're just going to go ahead and twist these together. And this is how you make the configuration that we are using. This is a very clean configuration. There is some other configurations where you would take all the ends, connect them together, and then run the starts. What I mean by ends and starts, number 1 was the start of the first phase, and number 5 was the start of the second phase, and number 8 was the end of the first phase, and number 12 was the end of the second phase. So anyway, we're just going to wind these two together. This is a pretty standard configuration that a lot of the motor manufacturers use. So here we go. So now we have already combined these two phases. And we're going to go on to wind the third phase. And the third phase is going to start at number 9, go over to number 10, and then we're going to finish up on 3 and 4. So I will go ahead and do that real fast, and I'll come back so we can twist the ends and the starts together. Alright, so we are finally back. So now we have phase 3 done, and I actually broke a wire twice while I was winding phase 3. So be careful how hard you pull it. It does matter. And with the glove, you got that extra grip. So you might want to not do like me and use the glove, but just use your hand. But you still want to make sure that those windings get in there very nice and snug. So anyway, now we've already trimmed off the main lead wire to all our windings. So we're just going to take and we're going to wrap these other ends and beginnings, or ends and starts, together like we did on the first time. And as you can see, wherever they come out of the same gap, those two go together. It's that simple, and that's really why I like this configuration, because you can't get much simpler than that. So anyway, we're just going to crisscross them. Oh, I did it the wrong way. We're just going to crisscross them like this, and just simply twist them together. I want to go ahead and apologize if this video is too long. Thank you for staying here this long. This whole entire process takes me about 40 minutes to an hour, just to wind one stator. To me, it's worth it. I'm not the greatest pilot, and I can still see a big difference in the flight characteristics of my quad. And plus, I have the control over how much kV I can output. And on that note, this one right here, I believe I have measured it at around 2500 kV. It's a good middle ground between 2300 and 2600. If you did one more winding, if you did 12 windings instead of 11, you should get right around your 2300 range. If you did one less winding, if you only did 10 windings, you would get over, I believe it's over 2600. I believe it's around like 2750 is about the average number that I would get. So anyway, there you go. You have the 3 phases all connected together. Very nice, clean, and really fast. I'm just going to take, and it does not matter which one you do this with, I'm just going to pull this one straight out from where it comes, and then I'm going to take these other 2, I'm just going to wrap it around there just like that, and I'm going to bend it out. And you can already see where I'm going with this. This is where you're going to be soldering your lead wires, your silicone lead wires to these little bumps, because I will be trimming these up. You want these to stay inside the bell. You don't want these to come down the arm. Just because they're stiff, they're aggravating, they're awful to solder. So anyway, pretty much you just want to make them nice and neat like that. Wrap them right around the shaft here. And after that, I'm going to take, let me get some cutters here. You're going to take just, I'm using fingernail clippers for right now, but if you got, just any type of wire cutters, that'll be fine. Scissors will even work, but, and I'm just going to cut it relatively short, but I'm going to cut them about anywhere from an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch off of the stator. And there you have it. It's that simple. I'm going to stop the video here because this is just the rewinding of the stator. Pretty much you know where to go from here. You're going to take your silicone leads and make sure that you get this enamel off of this wire before you try and solder to it. Watch the next video in this little series here, and I will show you the tip that I use. Works like a charm. It's excellent. It gets a very good contact from your silicone wire to these little bumps here. But pretty much you'll solder those back on. So then you have your leads, and then after that you're just going to take it and you're going to take and put it back on your motor. You're going to run the lead wires out through the point where it's supposed to come out at, and then pretty much you just press it back down on your motor, and then you are good to go. So that will do it for this video. That is how you rewind the motor, and as you can see, that's just a nice clean, very, very nice winding. And so anyway, in the next video I'll show you how I solder on these leads, and pretty much we'll go from there, and we'll go into the motor testing and everything else like that. So thank you for tuning in. Sorry the video is so long. This is about as short as I could condense it. In fact, there's a lot more stuff that I recommend that you go look up. I will not be posting links to any of the things that I looked up. Just Google how to rewind a brushless motor, and pretty much the only things that I could get to come up were things for the collective pitch helicopter guys, because those are the #1 guys that usually do this sort of mod. But anyway, it really does help on our multi-rotors. This is just such a smooth running motor after you do this modification. It's just clean, it's more efficient, and hey, it's just prettier. It's and it's something that you get to do and personalize yourself. So anyway, thank you again for watching this video. I hope it helps you, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. Thumb up this video if it did help you, and yeah, stay tuned for more. Thank you.